Hi everyone. Thank you for viewing into the series of Social Housing Barometer videos that we're doing at the moment. As I'm sure you're aware, BDO do a Social Housing Barometer, which looks at the state of the nation from a social housing perspective, looking at the key risks. So we go out to the sector and we ask them about what ways they see as the key risk impact on the sector. And it's really interesting to see. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. It's really interesting to see some of the trends flowing through. And today I've got with me David Smith. David, do you just want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for that, Hamid. David Smith, I'm the Executive Director of Resources at Broadacres Housing Association in North Yorkshire.
Brilliant, David. Thank you. So David's here today to have a chat around some of the themes coming through in terms of the social housing survey, the social housing barometer, and to take his take and Broadacres' take on some of those things, which what's been an incredibly challenging year over the last 12 months or so. So David, I just want to look at some of the interesting themes coming through in the barometer, and I think one of the areas that we've noted and has really gone up in terms of the last 12 months in terms of importance for boards and management is the whole ESG agenda. And I thought it'd just be useful to get your take on that, especially in terms of your organisation, where it's situated, and the fact that it is more rural, about the sort of stuff that you're doing around that, and what you see as some of the risks and challenges, and how you're dealing with that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Hamid. And starting, it's been a difficult year. Let's not lose sight of that. So we've maintained business as usual. We're a housing association with 6,500 homes. We've continued to do our repairs. We've continued to service gas boilers and check electrics and maintain the necessary compliance. But ESG, the agenda of ESG has been important to Broadacres for a number of years now. We implemented a strategy in 2018, 2019 that focused on affordable warmth for our customers, and that has morphed into energy efficiency, and itself has become a big part of the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance agenda. So we've, as I said, we've maintained business as usual, but we focused on affordable warmth, we focused on energy efficiency, and in the last financial year, we were number 2 in the list in terms of the homes that we built that met SAP A, and we're continuing on our journey to be compliant. All of our homes will be SAP C or better come 2028, and that takes a significant amount of investment, as you well know. So having talked about the challenges with the pandemic and talked about our drive on the ESG agenda, we've also got the geography that is North Yorkshire, and I'm not joking by saying that sometimes there's snow on the Dales in September, October, and so we've got customers up in the hills, up on the moors, who are experiencing the cold and the extreme weather, the recent storms, the storms in January, and so on and so forth. And we have to modernize their homes. We have to really make future-proof their homes for energy efficiency during all of that as well. And with the empty properties, we do the larger jobs. So it's been a busy year. And I'd say this, wouldn't I? But Broadacres have done really well this year. We've done really well despite the pandemic. We've done really well despite the weather, despite the challenges surrounding the labour market and material shortage, which I'm sure we'll come on to. We've maintained our programme for affordable warmth and energy efficiency. So it's been a good year.
Yeah, and that sounds like it's a real area of focus for you. And as you say, you've had a real focus on it over a number of years. But do you think from your organisational perspective, because there's 3 different elements of this, isn't it? There's the environmental, there's effectively the S aspect and the governance aspect as well.
Yeah,
and do you feel there's the same level of focus across all those 3 areas from a sector perspective and also from your perspective as well?
Yeah, that's a valid point. That's something I've talked about in some of the sector-wide discussions that we've had in the webinars and conferences. Environment, social, and governance covers a vast area. of importance. We were early adopters with our sustainability reporting standard, but we morphed that standard into an ESG report, and that was important for our funders, our stakeholders, and our colleagues alike. But we're trying to get that balance right. It's not just about the environment, as I've said. The social aspect. We're a social landlord, so that's a key part of the S in ESG. But actually involving the customers has been critical to us. And the strategy that we're on now and the strategy that we're working to in the future will be driven and has been driven by our customers as well. So we've been part of our customers' agenda, but we've been part of the local society as well. And again, over the last year, we've supported breakfast clubs at local schools. We've done an awful lot with food banks, as others have, I know. We've worked with the Greggs Foundation for, as I said, for the breakfast clubs. We've consulted widely. I think we've consulted with nearly 10,000 customers, which is huge. So we've been out there in the communities, the rural communities of North Yorkshire. As I'm recording this now, we're approaching Christmas, and we've decorated half a dozen trees with lights and decorations in some of the villages, and that's lovely to see. It's really good. It's a real sense of community well-being. And the governance aspect of that, again, critically important in a regulated industry. The governance is a given, but we have to demonstrate the informal governance, if you like, of listening to our customers. And the push this year has been not only to listen to our customers, but also ask about our silent customers. Why are we not hearing from them as well? So again, in these very challenging times, to get that balance right, to report on that balance, to tell everybody what we're doing has been critical to Broadacres.
Brilliant. And I think it's really important for the sector to be seen as a lead in this as well, because what's really I find interesting, I work across a number of different sectors, and we're seeing other organizations, more commercially focused, who've got a big drive in, because this is not just a social housing piece, this is a wider piece. I know with your background, so you've got a background in working with commercial organizations. I think you'll know that as well and see that as well.
Yeah, very much. And we as a sector, we have to lead this. Your home is where your heart is. Your home is it's where you go every night. It's where you work during these challenging times. So the homes that we're developing, they have to be right. They have to be comfortable. They have to be affordable. And we're working with partners where we can, but we have to be the trendsetters. So, we are looking now in 2021, 2022, we're looking at carbon neutral homes where we can. But I have to caveat that by saying we're spending a lot of money on 5 pilots to produce carbon neutral homes. And with all due respect, I don't think the developers are doing that, but we're doing that right now, knowing full well that the energy that's coming off the grid isn't carbon neutral. So we can't call them carbon neutral homes. But at this early stage, 21, 22, when we've got a target of 2050, let's see what we can do now so that we can use those pilots moving forward. So, again, we're very rural, but I think we're bold, and I think we're brave with our agenda and our strategy. So we've had a lot of interest from other RPs in the sector, and we've had interest from the commercial house builders as well. And the conversations that I've had are we betting on Betamax when actually it's going to end up being VHS? For those of you who remember, the two types of video cassettes there were. It isn't about betting on the technology today. It's about seeing what's possible, what's affordable, and using those benchmarks going forward. So as the resources director, I need just an element of an idea as to where the money's going to go over the coming years.
Showing your age there, David, aren't you? With the Betamax. Yes. But in our house, I think we waited till we got CDs, didn't we? We didn't have that debate because we didn't get a video recorder. So there you
go. Don't tell me that you're only a DVD man there, Hamid.
Just moving a little bit away from that. I think that's really interesting. You're right. The sector's got to be seen as a lead in this, and we can't be seen as a sector that is behind in terms of these areas, because this has been the key differentiator in terms of attracting the right people to the sector as well, in terms of the the social aspect in particular, and the governance and the transparency around that. I think that's really, really important. But I suppose one of the real challenges for the sector is, when I'm talking to organisations the last couple of months, they're saying to me that they are seeing a period of real financial pressure, and part of that has been driven by COVID, from a perspective of catch up, but also what we're seeing is, this has been filmed just before Christmas, and we're seeing inflation running at 5% with possibilities, forecasts of 6% in the early new year. We're seeing actually, and then my understanding is inflation on the building material side is significantly higher, and you managing all that in the environment of rent increases and the potential impact of rent increases on tenants with CPI +1. How do you see that picture, and how is that impacting your organisation in particular?
Yeah, so thank you for that, and you've identified all of the variables that we're facing in the sector right now. So we're seeing wage inflation going through the roof. We're seeing general inflation go through the roof. We're seeing pressure on materials and supplies. We're seeing a national insurance increase in the coming year as well. And on top of that, we have to look at the rent rise for customers. We have to look at the main kind of holding on to our colleagues as well. And so we're modeling a number of different scenarios. I won't say stress testing, but actually that probably is internal stresses in terms of what will our income look like in the future. Will we put through the full rent rise? Will we put through a bold pay rise for our colleagues, bearing in mind the cost of living is increasing the way it is? Again, energy bills for customers and for colleagues are increasing. So we're modeling a number of different scenarios from that aspect, aside from the usual stress testing that we're being asked to perform. And and it's difficult. It is difficult. And the decisions that my board will make are going to be difficult, and they might not be popular, and they might be very popular. The uncertainty that we face going into 2022 is as great, if not greater, than a year or so ago, because we're doing our best to manage the pandemic, but actually the economic implications are that much more, dare I say, hostile, much more difficult to manage. So again, it comes down to modelling. It comes down to working with my finance team, working with the board, working with our housing management team. But also the economist in me is I look at the rural economy in North Yorkshire, and I look at how fast pay is increasing, and luckily pay is increasing. And I look at the money in the North Yorkshire economy locally in Hambleton and wider as well. And I have to put that all into a paper and discuss that through with board. But it's going to be tough, and it's going to be tough for colleagues. It's going to be tough for customers. But we've got to make it palatable for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that piece around potential it is going to be more stressful in terms of more stress on your business plans, and something that has to be managed. And at the moment, the environment's quite uncertain around that.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt there, but one thing I'm very keen to emphasise, and one thing that my board support, is that whilst surpluses are a good thing, and deemed to be a good thing, as a charitable housing association, we have to take that to the limit. So surpluses are reinvested in current homes and reinvested in development, but actually we've got to make allowances for our customers. And so our modelling isn't about the size of the surplus. Our modelling is about what's reasonable, and what we can do for all of our stakeholders. And I include funders in that as well. We don't want to worry the funders. We don't want to upset our customers, and we don't want to lose our colleagues. So yeah, it's there's a lot of people modelling going on.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it is a challenging time. And something else that's been challenging, especially for organisations yourselves, is in terms of when we look at the Social Housing Barometer and some of the risks that are coming through and still right up there. I think the piece around cyber and challenges around that, but how organisations make themselves cyber safe is really up there. And I know Broadacres have done quite a lot around this, so it'd just be interesting to hear some of the stuff you've been doing and how you see that risk being managed by yourselves.
Yeah, again, that's a great question, and I wouldn't want to give away the official secrets here, and neither do I want to tempt fate. Cyber is very, very important, and the cost of protecting Broadacres and Broadacres customers, with the online portal that we have the app. That protection, the cost of that becomes more and more year after year, and it's like taking your car to be serviced. If the garage said to you, your brakes are a bit chunky, you can't turn around and say, well, I'll leave them this year. I'll leave them this year because they're, it's too expensive. So we're paying a lot for the cyber protection. I'm not going to go down the channel of what levels we have, but I'm always supportive of our ICT department when they say we need to improve, we need to catch up, and our objective is to be one step ahead of the cyber criminals out there.
Yeah, I think it was interesting when I was reading through the barometer, and I'm not sure this is the way we actually devised the barometer, but I couldn't really see that much around people and well-being in particular, which I would have. My sense has been the last 12 months there's been a lot of work done on that, but I suppose this sort of links into the whole piece around the world is different now, and the way of working is different, and especially for an organisation like yourselves, where you've got such a wide base in terms of where your properties are, in terms of you're just not situated in one area. What sort of discussions have you had around that, and how are you looking in terms of working moving forward? How do you see that working for your employees?
Yeah, so again, we're very proud. We've not stopped developing in people this year. We've continued to spend in training, and as the world has moved to online training, it's supported us. It's helped. No longer are we running training courses in the big house here in North Allerton. We can deliver it online. And the training that we've done has been, again, around mental well-being, health, generally, for our colleagues, because it's lonely working from home. It's tough working from home. If you don't see your colleagues physically, it can take its toll. So we have a fabulous first aid mental health. Let me get this right. Mental health first aid program, and we train more to support that. We do our best for virtual get-togethers. We do our best for physical get-togethers where we can. But we look after one another as well. Again, I don't think that's unique to Broadacres. We're spread geographically, but we've got our eye on our colleagues. We do make a point via the portal, via our communications with, are you okay? And asking that question and listening. And from the management team down, heads of service, to the team leaders, we make a point of reaching out. But the training is important. The training gathers people. It doesn't have to be about us as individuals. We've rolled out carbon literacy training, as you would expect for I think pioneering ESG housing association like ourselves, and we're delighted to be close to securing the bronze certificate for carbon literacy training. But that's an example where we're in the room physically or virtually, and we can have a chat. So again, we've not let go of the colleague training, and we've not let go either in reaching out to customers. So we've continued to run our customer engagement sessions, again formally as part of our engagement panel, but also informally with listening to our customers. So we've again focused in a difficult 20 months with, we've said this, you've asked for that, how have we delivered, and assessing things. So again, just that emphasis on society, on that social element of the ESG agenda.
Brilliant. Yeah, and that's really, really important, as you say. And I imagine next year, I think we'll ensure that within our survey we have a specific heading around some of these areas to make sure. But as I said, it didn't really come through in the report this year. Just conscious of time. so just ask around one of the interesting trends coming out from the uh, Social Housing Barometer this year was, over the last couple of years, driving efficiency and innovation has been right up there, right near the top in terms of importance, in terms of the survey. And I actually think it's been top the last 3 years, actually, or in 4 years. But this year, that actual elements from the survey perspective, that dropped down to third place, behind health and safety and scaling up development. And actually, last year, the survey showed 61% of respondents thought this was an important area, an area of focus, and then trend-wise, it's down to 40%. From your, I mean, I imagine that's probably linked to the environment and what's happened in terms of COVID. But do you have any thoughts on that at all, David?
I think Broadacres gets the balance right. Again, I'd say that, wouldn't I? We get the balance right between being innovative, continuing to deliver business as usual. Compliance is a given. We're very fortunate in that we don't have tower blocks, but we're unfortunate in that our stock is spread as widely as it is, but also it is the age that it is. We work in 2 national parks. And with that comes its own challenges. So from a resources perspective, we get the balance right. We certainly get the allocations right. I think we're innovative with our look at retrofitting 5 homes this year for carbon neutrality. That's very expensive, but we're very keen to see what's doable and how much that costs. I think we're traditional as well. I've talked about the geography and the challenges that brings. But we're looking at modernizing and making homes energy efficient up in the Dales, up in the moors. And these are old homes, and this is expensive. But if we fail to reach SAP-C, the required SAP-C by 2030, then we'll have to dispose of that house. And if we dispose of some of our homes in some of our villages, that's Broadacres disappearing from the village, because we then really can't afford to build because the land is too expensive, and buying the homes becomes that much harder. So it's a great question. We get the balance right, and as best we can, between being innovative, being traditional, maintaining compliance, looking after customers, looking after colleagues, and we're doing a good job, but it is getting harder.
Yeah, definitely. I think actually that's all I really wanted to ask you today, David. I mean, it's been really interesting hearing your take on what's happening and what's been, as I said before, an incredibly challenging 12 months. And as we said, it's going to be probably just as challenging moving forward as well. But just wanted to thank you very much for taking the time out today for talking to us, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, David.
That's great. Thank you, Ahmed.